I would like to speak about this connection between drawing, how I understand architecture through the drawing, and projects, how the layers of the town going over each other, what should be saved, what should be kept in the discussion about town planning reasons to put something, to make something instead of the building, or to keep all buildings and to make something new as the addition of the old. This working with the body of town, let's say, what begins with a research through the drawing. People learn about architecture even sooner through the picture. So they see the picture somewhere in the social network, and they learn that somewhere in one town where they never been was built very interesting building, for example, or really interesting complex, or some ideas about sustainability, and they learn through the pictures, through social media, about architecture. So to connect with many people through the pictures about the building, and to make the relations to understand or to present the building or the complex or the idea of architecture even before it was realized, nowadays much more important as it was maybe even for 50 years, even for 20 years. It makes very, very speedy development. This idea of learning to very early time of developing of the house, what kind of house, what kind of building, what kind of idea would be realized on that or this place. So far of course we work in our office also a lot with pictures, a lot with ideas, a lot with small messages we put on to explain in short blocks what we like to express, what we like to do. A lot of controversy here are in the positions. What is, for example, sustainability? Sustainability is Lego structure, what you can build and rebuild and exchange very fast, because it is very sustainable if the office world going to change very fast. Or it is sustainable, for example, to make this architecture, like this court building under heritage we rebuilt with our Dresden office. I mean, this building, this court, was made the same like, for example, this post building in Ghent, this huge tower. It is not from 17th century or 16th century now, it is from the beginning of 20th century, don't believe. By the way, all drawings are made by me. That is drawing I made on site. I'm sitting with my friend and drawing like this all embankment in Ghent with all gable houses of 16th century, of old church of 13th, 14th century, and then the post building with two towers with post buildings there, in fact from the 20th century. So the architecture at that time, all the centuries from Middle Age till 20th century, beginning of 20th century, was going like a quite homogene, like the same but not the same, development of style, development of ornamentic, development of detail, and that is what, to be frank, we like in the architecture of past. And of course, if I see to this court building we renovated in Halle, I would say, okay, nowadays nobody can make this building in all the richness, in all the depths. Was made this architecture, but it's not some very outstanding architecture. I even don't know from my head, from my memory, who is an architect of that court building, because every court in Germany, or maybe in Europe, built in the beginning, especially in Germany, because it was a time of consolidation of German right and so on. Every court looked like this. In every town, there is like this court with this wonderful, of course, very monumental, but very detail-rich, very deep from the detail understanding architecture. And just 10 years after, we had Fagus work by Gropius, and it began the time of modernity. That is very outstanding phenomenon. And I think exactly that's why I think we will never get the artificial intellectual work so perfect as it could be, because this curving, this turning back from the main route can only be human, because no artificial intellectual would say we make 1901 this court building or this post, and 1911 we make Fagus work. Nobody, because artificial intelligence would say we make the next court, but people have say we are tired, we make something completely else. That is what I think very interesting in the architecture, and this picture says about it. Like 18th century work by Piranesi, 20th century the same blocks, but similar but not the same, another scale, another quality of details, another quality of town, much more density, much more huge, and then very free work of town, very free body of town of 21st century. Of course, we don't speak today about harmony as at the time of Piranesi, but also in the time of Piranesi we had a lot of controversies in the town. Remember the old temple with the Baroque church built just inside of it. And so architecture was every time full of controversies. And these controversies you see also in the town of Berlin. You see how deep the very controversial dialogue between the buildings of, for example, the same time beginning of 20th century or end of 19th century, and the time of mid of 20th century after the war. So it, as a deeper contrast cannot be. It is very, very hard contrast. And I think that is a hard contrast we have to preserve, because that is part of our history, and that is part of our memory, and that is a part of our town we have seen, we like to see, maybe we hate to see sometimes, but that is a part of our nature, of our cities where we grown up. That's why I was just wondering about this house, and I wanted to preserve them against the client, because the client wanted maybe to demolish it, to make new facade. I explained it about in the film, but in fact we found very poor substance and very bad substance. But still, I understood that is a very, very important part of memories. That's why we got a budget. The budget was very modest, but we got a budget to rebuild this building, to renovate this building, not rebuild, but renovate, to save all them, what could be saved. And in this case, we renovated the face of this very important after-war part of Berlin. I think it is very important work, and that is not important work only about physical sustainability, not demolished because you push out too much CO2, but not demolished because we don't like to push out our memory about the towns where we are grown up, and we like to save, we like to keep this memory in our heads, but our grandfathers, they had completely other memory, because on this place was staying the house what was 4-storied high, with very handsome round corner, very handsome ensemble. But it was demolished. It was completely demolished in the war, and new memory was coming after the war with complete new history of West Berlin. And I think this history is now sustainable as a part of history of Berlin. The same with this building. That is a picture what we have found by beginning the work on this corner. And the first idea of mine, of course, was to demolish everything and to make something like the neighbor, because in Berlin we are very sensitive about to make something new like the old, and not to be too strong to make something very contrastful, but just to make something looks like old but new. And of course from the quality you cannot make now such a house as this department store, old department store. In the middle, what was made also in the Jugendstil time, but already 100 years after, we have no possibilities from handcraft to make something else. So if we make more simple, like the house left, what was realized, but like the old. But of course, it is very, in fact, very silly position, because the house right is in itself has enormous power. And to save them, to save a part of the history, because it was also a telephone station where the number one or number two from the DDR government connected himself with another governments of socialistic countries. So it is not only a building about 60s as a building style, but it is a building about the history of that time, the history of DDR, and this DDR, you cannot avoid them. It is there, and it's very much in the body of Berlin. Opposite to them is one of the oldest buildings, as a city hall, older city hall by Ludwig Hoffmann, amazing building in Neo-Renaissance style. But in this contrast, I think we have a big sense. And after that, to bring the new composition, of course, we kept the line of the street and add some building to them, but did them also by saving important parts of existing building. Like this courtyard was before. This one is now, so you recognize the existing one, you recognize the new apartment and office structures, and you have still this new contrast with the already contrastful building of the 60s. And we continued the line. We made the new development on the along the street, quite contrastful to left side, but also quite contrastful to another Ludwig Hoffmann building opposite. But if you go around and you see this small square, so we added the square with some buildings, but you see very clear the old one, this old telecommunication building, how it was, and you can recognize very clear how the town planning of DDR was. And I think it is, once more, not about CO2 pushing out, not pushing out, it is also very much about saving of quality of ideas were made in the time before us, and I would wish that also with my ideas wouldn't go so rabiat as sometimes we do it, but to save them and to go with the next layer on top of it. Of course, the point of ecological thinking is every time around us, and as you see by film, there are very, very many ideas what is ecological in this complex. We have big green area, we have huge terminal, what makes possible to go nearly without parking places because all the people are coming by public transport. But the whole building was made like a Lego work with a timber hybrid construction, what was made him very very fast in the construction time. So like not 1 year, less than 1 year, like around 30,000 square meters were built. It is of course sustainable from the position not to build long. It is very light building, so it looks like I think 50%, maximal 60% of the weight of normal one, of normal concrete building. So you build building more light, so you use less CO2, and you construct it like a really so Lego work. Of course, I cannot imagine this building in the like downtown of London or downtown of Berlin, because this building is much less sustainable as a body for existing and for enriching downtown. But it is clearly a very good perspective for some office areas. They are growing and growing back. because our office world, after COVID, we know we have 40% less the amount of office spaces needed for the same firms. And this going forward and back for this Lego work is quite nice idea from my point of view, because you set up not like such a court what is staying 200 years and that's all, but you set up some model could be developed, reused, recycled, partly changed. And for this filling of office space, I think this timber construction with the prefabricated elements put on the prefabricated parts of facade with columns, with timber columns, with timber beams, with all this MEP elements involved between timbers. It is very clear, also very simple on pragmatic body, with some accents about wood, about big entrance, and of course about much more extensive area, much more expressive area inside. Because if you like to build something what is really sustainable from warming protection, of course you have to be quite modest outside, because every meter of cantilever, it is some facade you have to protect against cold or warm weather. But if you are inside and you are protected already, so you can be much more extensive. So we have created here quite interesting world. What is a part of office world where you come from one level to other and go from one position to the other, can connect each other, can discuss, have conference areas and so on. And then, so step by step, you go till the roof, and the roof is also quite interesting. It's very light roof. This roof is only 45 kilo per square meter, and even against wind, you have to protect them. That's why we have combined this timber and steel construction. What is very light, the timber elements are only 45 centimeters high, what makes them, of course, very light, with a lot of daylight coming through. It is also not a glass, it is foil tech roof, what is very good for acoustic. It is very good for cleaning, because the tension is much less, and it is very variable against or for sun protection. So you can react with this living roof on different substances of sun protection day or night time. And for the cleaning, as I told already, the tension is much less as by glass, so you can clean it very seldom, because all dirtiness going with the water from itself, and doesn't stay there like a film on the very high tensioned glass construction. Here it is going by itself, as a cleaning by itself. So, and with this all way, you go upstairs, you go till the loggia, and they have very nice space inside as outside. You are looking over the town. It's like a feeling of very, let's say, light timber smells. I've been there for 2 days with some people. There are a lot of people there. They like to see it, and sometimes I make some excursions, and the feeling was very good. The people were sitting on these islands, on the trees, they were discussing, they were coming over and down over the staircases. The light was everywhere still on, because the people were working there, and you've seen these Venetian ceilings with beams. Nice feeling. But it is, as I told, it is a sample to make like a Lego work for some office island made by big office island, but not in the direction deep and densely downtown. Because in the densely downtown, you see, we have seen it all also in the film. You see this combining of old and new. New is poor. Our new language is poor with ornamentic, poor with smallest details, not only because we are so empty from our detail feeling, but also because handwork became to be completely else. We don't find today the people making such details by plaster or by stone outside. It is a completely other understanding of handcraft, handwork in the world. So we have to create comparable quality with what was made for 100 years, but with completely other elements. Also, our facade structure became to be completely else. It was massive for 100 years, so if the plaster was going away, you have seen brickwork. If now this very thin element going away, you see something very stupid, and maybe some rats, or I don't know who is living there, nobody expected, but they are there, okay? And it is completely other feeling of material. Steel we have to work with, and we have to create after this. Also behind this facade is also insulation, and behind this facade is also insulation. But the over surface should express something what can be compared with a historical structure, not on the same way that we put gips plaster on top and create from this very, very poor materials something what looks like neoclassical, but we get in other materials another filling for surfaces without details of past, but with the same, hopefully with the same depths of past, making the houses on the other way, but with a quality of monolithic surfaces could be comparable with the quality of monolithic surfaces of past. That's my idea, also to create with contemporary materials, to create with contemporary structures, something what could be maybe, I hope, in the better samples comparable with what very normal plaster house left could make with very simple handcraft that time. So we have interesting brickwork. We go with this brickwork against concrete frames and create something what from the sustainability of materials, from the soil sustainability, these materials could stay long, could age long, could age good, and create some surfaces what are interesting to touch, what are interesting to come closer and feel them as a touchable and serious surface. Another point what we have to speak about is, of course, the scale of the town. So the scale of what my colleague Frank Focke explained with these three gable houses. One time I've thought, okay, we had this modern building of 60s. We have demolished them and made three gables back, but with much less details as it was before. So it is also some controversy in this position. But one is clear, we have small sections of parcels, some small section of addresses of houses. And that is, of course, what we have to keep in the old town, because otherwise we will create huge buildings with huge scale, what is uncomparable and uncomfortable to see in comparison with historical left and right small parcels are coming around these new involvements. So as I had to build something, and unfortunately demolished before, very huge and very scaleless building on this side, I have decided to make really three addresses with three I think serious surfaces, serious elements and reliefs. They are of course not with the same details as it was before for 100 years, but hopefully with very small the curved elements of railing, with the small curved elements of concrete, with the fine brickwork, with the fine elements of natural stone window framing. I hope to get somehow closer to the feeling of surfaces I am amazed from the old buildings. Of course, also generosity of entrances, generosity of ground floor openings, or as in this case with void till the first floor for New Apple in Berlin. So it makes them also somehow to destination, and hopefully gives them a possibility, a chance to stay in the concurrence with very interesting old samples, elements of this very typical street of Berlin. Another point, of course, we have also these samples in the towns. And I asked myself, okay, you have a lot of columns. They're truly columns made by brickwork, made by plaster. There is no such a facade where rats are going on high and down. But it is all truly, it is all serious. But can we do something with the relief of today, with the material of today, what makes maybe the same feeling of globally ensemble? I made this one. Of course, somebody can say it is completely ugly, but I think it's not ugly. I think it's nice because you have the volume, the reliefs of this corten, as a steel, old steel elements. They are coming in relief, but also in the quality of patina of these elements. Near to each other, you have the same effect of big street and of neighborhood of similar details, but still you get the similar effect with the relief of the pylons, but not in the way you reconstruct the columns, but in the way you create another relief in, from my point of view, quite contemporary way, but also in the way you create the good possibility to make a patina to age this work of facade, this Fachwerk of facade, and bring them a feeling of materiality, not a feeling of paper as a material of facade, but a feeling of materiality. And of course, another point is the form. Earlier, it was not a point that the form was very significant. Maybe the form was significant for some cathedrals and gate towers, but for normal buildings, it was not a point. For nowadays, of course, we have a lot of buildings what have extremely important form, and this form gives the accent for big parts of the ensemble. So it could be very simple structure where one part of the structure going up and giving the space frame to whole complex. So in our time, of course, the form becomes to be very important part, much more important for regular buildings, much more important as it was before, because before it was more or less facade language. Nowadays, it's very much form language. So every building with smaller or bigger expression brings the form to the language and gives them some accent. Also as a possibility to speak some new tone in comparison to the old architecture around. And it makes, from my point of view, sense. It is not a position that you try to make something like old, but you have still something what makes new tone, old tone in this complex. Like, for example, in this ensemble, you have the very old building from 18th century, you come in, you have some old elements, over them are going new elements that what I like in the contemporary architecture. There goes in very controversial discussion with the old heritage elements and gives them good possibility to speak each other. Maybe it is speaking with a noisy speaking, but it is some controversial but interesting dialogue between old and new. And the same was in this music hall, where the parts from the DDR were the huge part, really very, very aggressive part. Then the very nice colleagues from Quedlinburg made this building surroundings. They decided not to make all buildings and in fact invited some architects for the pitch to speak with the leading teachers and children and parents. And I was lucky to be chosen and made this
middle element, middle small, I hope, gem to create this music hall for 550 person, completely made by timber with green roofs, with earth energy fitting of the building, also completely outstanding from the fossil energy, but also in the scale of the building, what I'm every time caring about. The scale of the building, passful to the scale of the smaller buildings around, made by colleagues, made in the past. So in new language, you still save the scale, the important scale, and bring them also inside. And I close my speech with this idea of museum. It is in fact the foundation I made for the drawings, because I like to draw, you've seen it, and they are printed, the drawings. They are first in my collection by Gonzaga and Toselli, two Italian great artists, stage designers of 18th, 19th century, to speak that the drawings are inside of this building. But important was also to work with very contrastful form. The form is very important now in the architecture, maybe more important as a facade. But still, if you are coming closer in this way of exhibition halls, archive, office, and library in the ground floor, you have to feel something more. You have to feel more density in the detail, as you only expect if you see the building from a longer distance. So if you come closer, you have to recognize more. You have to create the new feeling of diversity of facade elements, and that is what is very in the neighborhood of what the old buildings have. You go from the big distance and you see the form of the building. You come to the old building and you see a lot of small details. So here, the same feeling. You come closer, you see these printed matrices, how they were made by the construction on load-bearing walls, and you come in. You see their curve as a inclined in the timber elements, not timber elements, inclined drawings also inside. It is a warm atmosphere against very cold atmosphere outside, and all till the door lever, till the creation of smaller elements going together, coming together like a handcraft of in the older times, maybe 400 years, 450 years, till the very upstairs with these terraces and office space made with very light double skin, sustainable construction. All the building is very sustainable because this outline structure, concrete structure, is saving around 30% of energy because of saving of whole building like a thermic, like a thermic skin, doesn't making possible for cold or warm atmosphere passing through. What is important for drawings, because drawings have to be saved and have to be really very careful, with careful conservation exhibited there. And we are successful also with our exhibition work. We are now by more than 30 exhibitions, different stage designer Mark Fisher, architects, contemporary architects, Alvaro Siza, Peter Cook, many great contemporary architects. We expect the exhibition with Stephen Hall in the next time, with Tatiana Bilbao. In the same time, we have the next exhibition with Albertina, Zao Bruchatten, then Lina Bobadi from Sao Paulo. Also very, very different people who have a relationship to the drawing. So drawing is a first very sensitive part of architecture, where the architecture is still handsome, nothing is built, nothing became to be ugly. And like this very nice installation about Angel by Kabakov, it is very sensitive in comparing with very hard work of ready buildings. Thank you very much.